Alright guys, so each table of 4 will get a brain. When you get the brain, it's actually going to look like this. So it has this white covering on top. That's called the dura mater. Alright, so it's going to take a couple minutes to actually, cut it off, as you just saw what I did. And make sure you understand that. I'll probably just put a piece on the practical and ask you what meningeal layer that's called. That's the outermost or superficial meningeal layer. It's called the dura mater. Okay? When you cut it off from, between the cerebrum and cerebellum, that's going to be really tough, so just let you know. I did leave some of the dura mater on because I wanted to show you the optic chiasm. So here's a piece of the optic nerves right here, and they're going to crisscross in the middle, and that's the optic chiasm. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's in my way, so I'm actually going to cut it off now. And sometimes when you pull apart, pull the dura mater off, you might be able to see some cranial nerves, so pretty cool. There's some little strings there. You see that? Pretty cool. There's a little string there. It's one of the cranial nerves, so that's neat. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off, and oh cool, you can even see one right there too. Alright. Wow, some thick ones. That's probably the trigeminal one. Alright, so I'm going to try and just, there we go. Okay. Cool. So on the bottom page 37, it's really important that you go through these structures before you cut it in half. Alright, so before you dissect, find those structures and then call me over, and then you can go over it with me. Alright, so the first thing on there is the dura mater, which we already pointed out. The arachnoid mater kind of looks like saran wrap, so I don't know if you can see the shininess on the surface of the cerebrum, but that's the arachnoid mater. You might be able to kind of put your probe underneath part of it and see that kind of clearish covering. Okay, now the cerebral hemispheres, so this is the cerebrum, so these are the cerebral hemispheres. Okay, the back is the cerebellum. All right, now the 4 lobes, let's take a look. So we know the cerebellum is at the back of the brain, so this should be the frontal lobe, the occipital lobe, the parietal lobes, and the temporal lobes on the side. All right. The longitudinal fissure, if you guys remember, goes down and separates the 2 cerebral hemispheres. So you might be able to hear it if you kind of pull it apart. All right, that's the longitudinal fissure in there, right there. Okay. And then the transverse fissure is you can actually separate the cerebrum from the cerebellum. Pretty cool. So that's a transverse fissure in there. All right, next are the gyri and sulci. So if you remember, the gyri are the elevated ridges, okay, kind of the pale, tannish areas. And the sulci have blood vessels running through them, so that's where the sulci are, okay. All right, we already located the cerebellum. That's back here, a little ball. The pineal gland is really hard to see, so I probably won't ask about it. But you actually would have to separate the 2 halves. All right, there's a little tiny structure right here. Probably just have a worded question, but so let's move on to the next one. On the corpora quadrigemina, we had the superior and inferior colliculi. I don't know if you guys remember the auditory and visual reflex center, the midbrain. So that's where that is. I'm going to flip it over and look for a couple structures. We already found the optic chiasm, so cut that off. And the olfactory bulbs, kind of tannish, really light. And what sense would, well, it's a synapse point for the, what nerve? Olfactory, and what sense is that for? Smelling, yeah, good. All right. Now, optic chiasm, the pons. So you're going to look for a bump right here. All right, so there's the pons, and then the medulla oblongata. This little stalk down here is the spinal cord. Pretty cool. So when you found those, call me over, and after you've done all that, you can make a sagittal cut. Just make it go down the whole length of the brain. Now I should have went kind of slowly because when you pull it apart, you know, you have your longitudinal fissure, but when you find white, that was the corpus callosum. So I should have kind of went slow, but whatever. So the corpus callosum is kind of this like white part right here. So that's gonna connect the two halves. All right. So if you use your probe, there's a space. Now, where were there those chambers inside the brain? Where are those chambers? These chambers held the fluid. Starts with a V.
Ventricles.
Yeah, ventricles. Okay, so the ventricles are right there, so you can kind of separate that and see that little gap. So that's pretty neat. Now, for the gray and white matter, go ahead and just take a chunk off the front of the brain. That's the best way to see it. And if you kind of hold it up, you can kind of see that. Right, this one. So we got the kind of white matter. It's kind of bright right now. So you can see the white matter in the middle, and then there's some gray matter on the outside. So what's the outer edge of the cerebrum called that has the gray matter? Yeah, the cortex, cerebral cortex. Good job, guys. And then the arbor vitae, pretty cool. It's a tree of life. You go and find your cerebellum, and it looks like a tree. It's kind of bright right here, so I apologize for that. All right, so when you guys are done, just put everything back in the plastic bag, clean your utensils off with soap, and call it a day. Thank you.
All right. You ready to get this brain going?